This is SciByte, episode 110 for November 26th, 2013. Everyone, and welcome to SciByte, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly science podcast, live on a Tuesday and fresh on a Wednesday over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our host, Heather. Hey there, Heather.
Hey there, Chris.
Hey, Heather, happy science to you.
Happy science.
So what are we going to talk about this week?
Today, we're going to take a look at lava under Antarctica, teaching artificial intelligence, neutrino data, greenhouses in the desert, studying the moon's atmosphere, hope for Kepler Space Telescope, curiosity news, and as always, take a peek back into history and up in the sky this week.
Wow! All right, well, we got a lot to get to, so why don't we kick it off with the news? All right, where do we start tonight, Heather?
All right. Marie Buried Land is a desolate region of Antarctica, which is buried, deep beneath the West Antarctic ice sheet. And now researchers have shown that there is molten rock still stirring underneath that giant ice sheet.
Lava under an ice sheet?
Yes. Now, it's known that there are volcanoes in Antarctica. So a few of them actually break the surface so that you can see, there's a giant sheet of ice. There's a mountain, climb up to the top of the mountain, and you could look in and you can see some lava.
Okay.
And actually, one of them, Mount Erebus, I think is the name of it, is actually one of the few volcanoes in the world that maintains live quote unquote magma inside its caldera. So it's live magma down there almost all the time. And it's had 16 mini eruptions this year. But what they're showing is that this is one of those weird things where, all right, stepping back a step, there are, not only these really, really large eruptions and volcanoes can actually melt the ice all the way up to the surface of the ice.
Sure.
But now they're kind of looking underneath and saying, hey, there's a thinner part of the crust, what they call the West Antarctic Rift System, where you can see a series of these rift valleys beneath this ice sheet. Now, here's where it kind of came about with one of your favorite sayings is data in the data.
Yeah.
So there's evidence of lava being erupted from these chambers through the ice repeatedly over, history as these plates have moved. And so no one was kind of sure whether the magma was still kind of underneath there. And so they took some seismic monitoring stations and they installed them between 2007 and 2010.
Really?
Now, they were building these. Essentially, what they were trying to do is weigh the ice sheet itself. So what they were doing is they were studying how it was shifting the crustal blocks along that rift system. And so in order to do that, they say, all right, well, let's see, how is the crust responding to the weight of the ice? So they can look at the crust of the Earth right there and look at kind of earthquake data so they can see the waves as it moves around. And from that, be able to say, all right, well, it's moving this much, which means the ice must weigh this much on the surface.
Ah.
Now looking through that data to kind of see that, they noticed a series of small earthquakes and what they called it two seismic swarms, theater of the mind, Earth, air quotes. And in January and February of 2010 and then March of 2011. Now, they were different. The reason they kind of stood out was because during the plates grinding up against each other, what they would expect, where they're trying to look at the data where it's pressing against the crust and kind of measuring the weight of the ice, that's going to be at a specific frequency, 10 to 20 waves a second. Now, this specific shaking that they saw was only 2 to 4 per second. So it's a great difference between what they were normally looking at. So they went, okay, well, let's break it down, going through the earthquake waves and saying there's P waves and S waves, and essentially what seismologists use to say. Remember that when they say this earthquake was a 7.2 at 1.5 miles or so many kilometers underneath the surface right here. Now you can calculate that through the various types of waves that an earthquake creates. Where the two plates slip against each other. And so that's how you do that. And so they were able to use similar to locate these specific locations, 25 to 40 kilometers beneath the Earth's surface. So then they were able to say, okay, now here is specifically where it happened. Now they know they have this sort of linear trend, this line of volcanoes that they have seen. And then this seismic activity happened along that line just a little further out. So they're thinking that that's probably a result of some magma beneath the ice or some sort of activity there, which might soon be another, volcano building up through the ice.
Magma. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
It's okay. Yeah. And then they're also seeing, the magnetic fields surrounding the area that kind of indicate this activity as well. So
you're getting serious. This is a serious investigation on the lava situation.
Yeah, they've had radar mapping that says they can see a layer of volcanic ash embedded inside the ice. So it's like each year snowfall falls on top, and then you have it's pressing down, and the bottom is sort of melting away. So you're looking back through time as you dig deeper into the ice, and so they go down so far, and they can see this layer of ash where once it was at the top, and a volcano erupted, and a whole bunch of ash laid on the surface of the glacial ice at that time. So it's interesting because one is just looking at this and thinking the crazy idea of, well, it's obvious that there could be a volcano in the ice, but magma in the volcano, it does definitely kind of seem odd when you think about it at first.
It's like fire and ice living together.
Yes. Now, what breaks it apart is saying, okay, it's interesting to look at because the more magma or the more heat at the bottom of the glacier, then you're melting the base of the ice sheet faster.
Yeah, right.
Which means that, the ice sheet above, could it possibly move everything along quicker? Would you be melting the ice sheets faster, moving things along that way? So
interesting, contributing to an already kind of like a melty situation.
Yes.
So where does this leave us now? So now that they know there is lava down there, but we don't have all the answers, so we're still kind of waiting to hear, or what? Where's that leave it?
Yeah, it kind of where we leave it right now. We know there's volcanoes that, some of them break the surface. We know some of them were underneath the surface. It's just that we're seeing additional, new pockets of this at a further point in the line as sort of, hey, can we see this starting up now? Instead of trying to look into history and kind of guess how things started, we can actually see how they start now and sort of be able to get a better idea of how things are moving.
Maybe all that ice is just one big volcano eruption away from melting, Heather. Probably not, huh?
Probably not.
All right, any other thoughts on that story?
No, let's just see where it goes.
All right. Wait, that's not the right one. This is the right one. There we go.
There you go.
I just want to take a quick little pause right here before we get into the news bite, which you got a tease of, right? Don't jump. Not yet.
Watch out, band.
So a little public service announcement over on the Jupiter Broadcasting site. Jupiter Broadcasting gets by on your contributions, either direct support or when you shop and use our affiliates. Here's the thing. We no longer have a browser extension. What? I know it's true. In fact, even if your browser extension is installed, it no longer works. We had a little dust up with Amazon, and so we've had to make some changes. And so in order to contribute to Jupiter Broadcast, you need to click through on a product on our website, or down below we also have those shopping links that we've always had at the bottom of the Jupiter Broadcasting website. But, take for example the fine SciByte show, Heather. Almost every week in the SciByte show, we have a pick of an item that you should grab on Amazon that we like quite a bit. As time goes on, we'll have different ones. Like last episode, we had Star Trek Season 5, The Next Generation. If you click that, like those ones where there's an actual product in the show notes, it'll automatically apply your country tag, take you there, and anything you buy after clicking that, even if it's not that particular item, will be tagged with our affiliate ID, or you can click through on that shopping link at the bottom of our site. And by doing that, a portion of your purchases contribute to Jupiter Broadcasting. Boy, oh boy, we're going to need everybody we can because we have new affiliate IDs. A whole system's been switched over, and we've sort of been started from square one again with the affiliate system, kind of a total system reset, and we could use your support. So if you click those links before you shop, we'd really appreciate it. All right, Heather, now it's time for the News Bite. All right, so what's in the News Bite?
All right. So, headline, read the story, got pointed out to me, frightened me to death. Quote, researchers are trying to teach common sense to an artificial intelligence by watching the internet.
Uh-oh.
That frightened me so much.
That's
I was like
oh no, Heather, that's like telling it to learn artificial intelligence by watching reality TV.
Yes. So, now, dig into the first paragraph and actually read what it's saying is that they're trying to let this artificial intelligence browse millions of pictures on the internet and see if it can figure out what they are.
Okay. All right. Okay. So it's using so here's a picture of a Camaro, a pencil sharpener,
Yes.
a desk, a lemon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So since mid-July, it was started searching these images, the never-ending image learning, NEAL. So 24/7, it started deciding, all right, what is this picture? Identify it. Now, how does it relate to this picture over here? So in 4 months, it had 200 processors, it had 1,500 objects, 1,200 scenes, all these kind of things identified, and it's making connections between them. So it's
like here, for example, it says a zebra can be found in the savannah, right? A leaning tower can be found in Pisa. Right, an Airbus 330 can look like an airplane. Has an airplane nose.
Yeah, and not all of them are necessarily
profound
or correct.
Yeah.
Was it some of my favorites? Rhino can be a kind of antelope.
Oh, nummy.
Actor can be found in a jail cell.
Well, that's true.
And my hilarious favorite, news anchor can look similar to Barack Obama.
Well, I could see that too.
It's one of those things where it's like those connections that sound funny, and then you're like, nah.
Yeah.
I can sort of see where that's coming from, but rhinos and antelopes, I have no idea where it's coming from.
It's not Skynet yet, that's for sure.
No, not yet. They're trying to get there. They're trying to be able to make a computer be able to make decisions. It's an artificial intelligence to look at everything and make sort of decisions. Scary. But so there is a lot of things that obviously humans can do much faster, like, hey, can a giraffe fit in your car? Without having to dig out the pencil and paper or the calculator, you're going to say no.
Right.
Most likely.
Right. You just know that.
Yeah, but a computer would have to stop and be like,
well, a giraffe is this big and your carrying capacity.
You have a giraffe of 16 feet tall and this mass and this diameter. So it's like trying to actually calculate it. So there's some steps between that we're trying to sort of bridge the gap for. So it's been able to figure out, like you said, that zebras in this savannah. They're trying to see, like, okay, well, they're kind of amused that a search for apple brought back the fruit and the laptop computer.
Sure. Well, I guess, you think about what an opportunity, speaking of data in the data, the opportunity of just, if you could set up a computer program and just have at it and let it go, what would be really good is, and this, I bet you anything Google's doing something like this, right? I bet they look at all the signals people generate and they figure out patterns, and then they route it into products like Google Now and things like that. But the internet is just this huge source of information and speech and images and video. Why not?
Yeah.
It's a little dorky now. I mean, the implementation's a little weak, but it's only been going for what? What'd you say, 6 months?
4.
4? Oh, wow. See, there you go. And now it knows that a news anchor looks like Barack Obama.
Yes, and in the future, it's turning scary again. They're going to turn it on YouTube videos to look for connections between objects.
Oh, well, hello to the robot in the future.
Yes.
Hello.
This is science. Please, when you're taking over the world, please reconsider it to see we gave you a thumbs up and a theater of the mind thumbs up and smiley face.
All right, well, so if we fast forward 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, maybe this is the computer system that pilots a spaceship while the crew sleeps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but if we're not going to go to space, we are going to do some desert farming, aren't we?
We will. So they have managed to some farming. Oh, we'll skip down to that one first.
Oh, did I jump ahead? I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
didn't mean to. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Well, it's because neutrinos are hard to see.
I scrolled down. That's what it was. All right. Well, yeah. All right. Let's talk about it. So this is interesting because it's a way to feed potentially billions of people, right? Feeding 9 billion people, it says in the video.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty impressive.
Now, it's not necessarily a recent publication or recent news about this, but I just recently found it and found it very interesting. So they had a pilot plant built by the Sahara Forest Project, which was able to produce 75 kilograms of vegetables in 3 crops annually. So it kind of made it comparable to commercial farms in Europe. And it's really only consuming sunlight and seawater.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty great. And it's in the middle of the desert.
Yeah. So, have a big greenhouse, and at one end, you have salt water trickling over a grid-like curtain. So, water, wind over water has a cooling effect.
Mm-hmm.
So it has cool, moist air blowing over the plants inside. And at the other side of the greenhouse, you have a network of cold pipes of cold seawater. And so you have some condensation when it hits those pipes, and the condensation comes down, and that's actually fresh water.
Yeah.
So then in a separate part, you have a concentrated solar plant, which uses mirrors in the shape of parabolic. So it has a curve, and so it has very, concentrated, essentially, solar heat. And then they put that through some fluid pumping through the pipes. Now, this heated fluid boils water, and then the steam from that drives a turbine, which generates power. So now you have...
This is kind of amazing.
So the sun comes in, you're creating steam, then the steam is generating the power to run the rest of the control systems and the pumps, and to use it for desalinating any water for the irrigation of the plants.
That is a greenhouse, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, what was really cool was I noticed that they kind of noticed a surprise was that just out in the early experiments, that just outside the greenhouse, that moist air was still kind of leaking out a little bit, which was encouraging other plants to grow outside the house. Now, one of the plants was able to actually use that to their advantage by using barley and salad rocket or arugula, however it is properly pronounced. And those are sort of naturally desert plants. And by using those sort of growing quasi-naturally or kind of boosted just around the outside, it actually helped reduce the air temperature inside the greenhouse.
Oh.
So it was kind of aiding everything as well.
That is awesome.
So
that's like the perfect example of how if you can build a closed system like that, all of this stuff can really sort of if you look at the science of how all of this closed ecosystems work, you can really build something amazing.
Yeah.
So cool.
And so their hope is obviously that, hey, we see, we're importing this amount. Now, what would it take to get as close to the amount of imports as they can, as close as they can meet?
Yeah.
So how can they make these greenhouses be small and produce good yields, and maybe, move to a commercial plant, maybe 4 crops a year that they could be awesome. So kind of looking long-term down the road to see, all right, well, it works on this kind of a pilot plant scale. Now let's scale it up, 2 times, 10 times. Now scale it up another step and see kind of how they connect and if it still works on a larger area in the same way.
Very cool. All right, well, now let's do a proper 2Byte news. Bring the band in. Come on, guys, get in here. Let's, Here we go. Good job, guys.
There you go.
So there's those neutrinos. I found them.
Yes, they're very sneaky. And they're really hard to see.
Yeah.
Which would probably be why.
Yeah.
So now astrophysicists have managed to detect and actually record what they call cosmic neutrinos. Now these are practically massless particles streaming through the Earth, speed of light from outside the solar system.
What?
Now, if they actually strike a surface, the amount of energy is about as powerful as a baseball pitcher's fastball. So, but finding them actually interacting with the Earth is a whole other subject.
So you're telling me that we have these things that smack into the Earth that are would be hitting as hard as a pitcher hitting you, and we don't hear about this very often?
Because they don't
hit very
interact.
Often?
They don't hit any of the atoms or molecules that we actually are sitting here with very often.
Okay. Well,
so
tricky.
It goes back to cosmic rays, and they're always trying to figure out, what is the source of cosmic rays, and these have the high energy. They have very high energy, so they thought, well, maybe they come from supernovas or black holes or gamma ray bursts and all these different things that they say, all right, we think it comes from here, but it's really hard to detect the origin of them. So what they do is they say, okay, well, let's, neutrinos have, something to do with them. So let's look at those, except those have no charge, hardly any mass, but they are produced when cosmic rays interact with their surroundings. So, okay, neutrinos travel in straight lines. They act as like pointers. So essentially once it's created, it travels in a completely straight line. Now, since it started working, what they have their detector is what they call ice cube.
Okay.
And it is located, very good reason, because it's located in a cubic kilometer of ice in the South Pole.
Oh. So
what they did is they dug down 86 different holes, and in those strings they embedded 5,160 optical modules. So they have these strings laid out in this square. So it's a nice cube.
Mm-hmm.
And they have all these digital optical monitors looking because when a neutrino actually interacts with the ice, it creates a tiny little flash of blue light. They call this Chernobyl light. And so from there, they have all these little cameras saying, all right, look for this little light. And so what they're able to do is see that. So if you see the video in the show notes, it has a whole bunch of vertical lines, and that's why those are all the different strings of cameras.
Wow, jeez.
Now they have a lot of different, small data that's coming through, little bits of interaction or, noise coming through. And then you can see there's a giant streak through there.
Yeah. So that's them catching it right there?
Yeah, that's them catching it. Now, there have only been 28 events that they have ever caught on this thing before.
Okay.
So there's very few. So it's really nowhere near enough to be able to say this is what they are coming from. But it's sort of very interesting that they actually caught another one. And so it's actually remote. You don't have to do anything. It just sort of calls home when something happens. But
so they can just leave them out there checking.
Yeah.
That's neat. Well, that's good since it's cold.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, Heather. Well, speaking of neutrinos, let's jump in our neutrino-powered lifter, go up the space elevator, and do a spacecraft update. All right, Heather, what is our spacecraft update?
Alrighty. Lady, the Lunar Atmosphere and Dust Environment Explorer. So it has actually hit its low altitude orbit. And now you read the name, you're like, all right, dust.
Yeah.
But lunar atmosphere?
Well, I remember we talked about this when you first covered it. I was like, didn't they land there? Don't they know what the dust situation is?
Yeah, but it's not necessarily because they don't know everything. They saw on the Apollo lunar landings and some of the orbiters, they see this column of dust that sort of raises as you lofts into the air as you cross into sunlight and darkness. So that sort of terminal barrier.
So it's reached the moon now?
Yeah, it's at the moon. It is started. It's, collecting a data. It's a 100-day long mission, which the length of it will actually depend essentially on how much fuel is available, stays there. So if it's very fuel efficient, then maybe they can, bump it out a couple days. But it really just depends because they're circling at a very low orbit. Washing machine size probe, and it's circling around so it can look from lunar day to lunar night. And it'll be able to get some precise measurements of what the moon's what's going on, be able to look for lunar dust above the surface of the moon. And from this, you'll be able to get a better idea of, hey, what's happening on other planetary bodies like Mercury or various asteroids, to sort of look at that and be like, all right, well, let's get a better idea of what's happening when sunlight and dark hit the surface of a dusty surface of a, some sort of
moon.
Other things. Yeah, moons or anything else out there in the solar system.
Now, we've also got a little Kepler update, too.
We do. There is hope. There could be a smiley face.
Really?
Yes.
Explain.
Okay. So, back in May, there was giant sad faces and crying faces. When I was talking about, Kepler had lost another one of its gyroscopes. Now, came with 4 gyroscopes. One of them died out a little while ago. Now, it needed 3 in order to maintain the very precise precision it needs to stay focused on those stars steadily enough to be able to look for the dips. Then it lost another one, and 2 just wasn't going to do it. So what they have done now is they said, okay, never try to keep a good scientist or engineer down. They're like, okay, well, what was part of the reason? Now, part of the reason why they needed 3 was because you have solar pressure, which is, the waves or the pressure exerted by the pressure exerted by photons of sunlight striking the spacecraft.
Wow.
Was making it unsteady. Now, because of the fact that it was angled a specific way, it wasn't hitting the spacecraft in an equal manner. So it's kind of throwing it off a little bit, off balance. So it needed 3 of the gyroscopes to maintain its balance in that position. Now what they're thinking is they're saying, okay, well, what if we oriented the spacecraft so that the solar pressure, the photons hitting the spacecraft, would completely even? So what if you move its position so that those are in a making even format? So maybe you essentially using the sun's pressure as a third wheel.
Aha.
So use that, stabilizing in one direction, then use the other 2 gyroscopes to stabilize in the other direction. Now, they're actually kind of currently testing that idea. And through late October, just the initial test, they're able to say, all right, well, here's an image of the full field of what they had. And they were able to collect it over 30-minute periods of time. And they were actually able to get an image quality within 5% of what was there before. So even in a preliminary test, they were able to get really close.
Well, that's kind of incredible if it's within 5%.
Yeah, so of course, just additional testing is going to be underway. Now, 5% seems awesome, but, will it be enough to spot the planets,
and will
exoplanets in the same way?
Will it always be that way, too? Could it maybe next time be more like 30% of a gap?
Well, that's kind of what they're saying is, all right, well, this first 30 days got us to 5%. Now, is that 5% enough to make the precise measurements that we need?
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Question mark, we'll see. So now they're kind of making additional testing, more longer-term testing to kind of see if they'd be able to maintain that for, days and weeks and so on. So what they're doing now is there's a decision-making process in the 2014 Senior Review, which is a biannual assessment of all the missions saying, all right, you get the check mark, you get the dollar bill, you get a sad face, I'll see you again next time. So now it's a mission called K2. So now they're kind of saying, all right, well, we're going to propose a budget for this. And they'll probably do it by the end of this year. They'll have the whole concept and everything ready to go for them to say, hey guys, we can be cool again. Give us a little money and we'll be extra awesome. So it's in the works to see if they can maintain that same amount of precision, how close they can get over the long term, and then have all that data ready to hand over, and hopefully they'll be able to have some funding to continue.
Very good. All right, Heather. Well, while we're up in space, let's head over to Mars and do a Curiosity update.
And liftoff of the Atlas V with Curiosity.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
So what's is Curiosity up to much right now? What's going on over there?
All right, so we had a software glitch a little while back.
Right.
And then it came back and it was fine. They rebooted. And unfortunately, they had a temporary suspension in science again because they had what's called what they call a soft short.
Yikes.
Yeah, so it was a couple of days where they sort of...
I guess it's better than a hard short.
Yes. So they ran a couple tests, checked everything. The vehicle was complete. The project manager came out and said, it's completely safe. It's capable of operating. It's within the margin of error. We're just stopping and seeing what's happening because something weird happened. So what they saw was the voltage difference between the chassis and the 32 volt power is generally about 11 volts, and it jumped down to 4. So there was a big difference. Now, of course, it has a floating bus, which means essentially it can be happy with a range of voltage differences. And so it kind of gives it a little bit of a margin of error there. Now, a soft short is where they're thinking there's some leak through something partially conductive rather than what they call a hard short. And a hard short would be electrical wires contacting each other. So they went back and they said, all right, so a soft short reduces their robustness. They can't tolerate, it's one step further along the line. It was like, well, we can't tolerate other things like this. So it could pose a problem somewhere else or point to something happening. Now, they already had one soft short on the landing day. Now, that was related to some of the landing paraphernalia from the explosive release device.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they had something there that was, that caused a little bit of problem, but then that was okay.
Paraphernalia.
Yeah. So, that lowered it from 16 to 11, but it never really affected anything. So now what happened is they went, okay, well, obviously we need to know what in the world happened. So they went back and they saw that the voltage itself actually, the change actually happened a couple of times, about 3 times in the hours before it became a persistent problem. So okay, they need to figure out what's going on and how to do that. Now, what they had built in was software that said, hey, when there is a voltage change, you're usually recording about 8 times, about once a minute, the voltage. So record it down, send it back about once a minute. Now, when it saw a change like that, it switches to 8 times a second. So then suddenly has a great deal more data about what's going on. So then their engineers will be able to go in and say, all right, instead of once per minute kind of guessing what's going on, now you can see it, over 8 times a second. So I can see that where, in my lab where it's, okay, well, you see something funny happening every once in a while. And that could just be because it's, you are reading it once a minute and it says 2, 2, 2, 10 to hey, what happened? And it could be just because that every minute it's happening a couple times, but it only actually reads once in a while. So with this fast pace increase in data, then you can say, all right, what is exactly happening? Now, they're actually able to go back and figure out most likely what it is. Now, there is what they call the multi-emission radioscopic thermoelectric generator. So they figure that it's probably an internal short there. Doesn't affect operations of the rover in any other way. Similar things on other spacecraft, including the Cassini spacecraft at Saturn. They've also seen shorts similar to this. No loss in capability. It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
In all of those, they've seen, presence of these type of shorts. No worries. And in fact, a few days after that, actually on the 23rd, so just a few days ago, it returned to normal voltages again, which is also similar to how they've acted on other spacecraft, where it'll kind of have this soft short for a little while, and that has a possibility of coming back to normal. But we have been back on science, and they were able to, so once they're able to, break it down and say, all right, we have the cause, we see what's going on, return to science activities. They're actually able to use the robotic arm. They had some powdered rock from actually, remember like 6 months ago, we were drilling into the targets?
Yeah.
And it kept some of that. I remember talking about how it kept some in the scoop. So it's like then they'll be able to test it as they go along the road. And now they're still being able to use a number of portions of it have already been used to be analyzed. And they just had another little bit of that scoop. They're able to analyze some more.
Keep analyze it as it that's so cool that it can pick stuff up, move on, and then while it's on the go, continue to run tests. That's pretty sophisticated, Heather. It's pretty sophisticated. Now it just needs to be able to scour the internet to look at images, and then nothing can stop it.
The bandwidth to Mars is really slow.
Yeah, and you never know, those soft shorts get in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, well, any other details on the rover?
Not yet.
All right, we'll jump in. I got the time machine all fired up, and I got good news, Heather. I accessorized. I added a DVD player, so if we got a long trip ahead of us, you're going to be entertained. Here we go. Close the door. Close the door. All right, so this feels like a little bit of a longer trip. Now, of course, to the audience, it involved time travel, so they probably just thought it was like 10 seconds or so. But this week, our destination is 281 years ago, December 3rd, 1732. Heather, what happened this week in science?
Artificial respiration. Now, this is probably not actually the first time it happened, but it's the first time that there was a clinical description of it. So there was a coal miner that was rescued from a fire. And so a surgeon, William Tosach, saw there, by the time he got up to the surface, there was no pulse, no breathing, no anything that he saw. All appearances dead to him. So give him some rescue breathing, blew air in his lungs.
Mouth to mouth kind of thing.
Yep, mouth to mouth. Saw the chest raising. Then he felt a couple of quick beats of the heart. So then he said, all right, that worked. Awesome. And then was it like 30 minutes later, it started some eye flutters, and an hour later he was I think essentially 2 hours later, he was fully conscious again and perfectly normal, except the fact that he had this gap in his memory.
Wow.
So, but that was
probably a huge deal.
Oh, yeah. Now, they'd seen from ancient times that something happened to, has connection between breathing and the heart. So it's probably been used in the past before then, but that was the first time that in medical literature, he was able to specifically write down what was going on.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well, I'm recalibrating the SciByte 2000 right now, so that way we can look up into the sky this week.
That's right. On Friday, November the 29th, about 45 minutes before sunrise, you're able to see the star Spica to the lower left of the moon. In general, for the planets, this week, we have Venus being the evening star. Around dusk, look to the southwest. It'll be setting more than an hour after dark. And it'll be, right now, it's at its highest and brightest that it will be for the rest of the year. Mars is over at 1 a.m. local time, rising about 1 a.m. and moving to the upper southeastern skies by about dawn. Jupiter, another favorite planet, about 8 p.m. local time, going to be rising into the east to northeast, and you'll have 2 stars from the constellation Gemini, Castor and Pollux, over to its left. It's going to be at its highest point at around 3 a.m. local time. And we're also coming up on January 5th, Jupiter will be in opposition, which means that it will be completely opposite of the sun from Earth. So now you're going to be hanging around, family maybe, Thanksgiving, if you're in the U.S., and so you might be stuck. You want to look cool. You want to look smart. Remember, you got in the evening, got Venus over in the southwest, and Jupiter's going to be rising about 8 p.m. in the east-northeast. And you'll be able to go to the show notes, scroll on down to the bottom. That's right. You two can look really smart around your family.
You know what you could do, just before you get there, we're gonna get to this. We're gonna get to the science talk here in a second. You bring it up on your smartphone. You go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com. You look for episode 110, and you just scroll down. And then, when the smart talk comes out, you just pull out this phone and go, yeah. Mars about 1 a.m. local time, rises around 1 a.m. moving to the upper southeast, skies by dawn.
Yeah. Forget science talk when it gets to the awkward silence and you
Right.
want to change the subject.
True.
Hey, guys, look,
Yeah.
that's Venus.
Yeah.
Come, I'll show you.
That's
Then-
very useful, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, what you need is Pocket Heather, where they just pull out their smartphone and you got your face on an app. They tap that, and then they just say, "Hey Heather, what's up in the sky right now?" And then Pocket Heather comes up and says, "Well, Mars. It's 1 a.m. local time. Rises around 1 a.m. Moving to the upper southeast." All right, Heather. Well, anything else we need to cover in this week's episode?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, look, we'd love it if you want to get a hold of us. Go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com and pop that contact link and choose SciByte, or you can tweet at Heather, JB_Mars_base. All right, Heather, well, have a great week, and thanks for the great show.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning this week's episode of SciByte. Don't forget to join us live on a Tuesday, would you? You can find out what time we're at over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. It'll convert it to your time zone. And you can also subscribe to get the show weekly. All right, everyone, thanks so much. We'll see you right back here next week.